is so good to be here. My name is Brenten Megee, and I'm going to be teaching one of my favorite music lectures of the year, and that is Ave Maria. Why do I pick Ave Maria at this time of year? Well, I pick it for a specific reason, that it's around Mother's Day. And first of all, I want to thank everybody and thank all the moms for being great moms. And I hope that you had a wonderful, wonderful Mother's Day. Okay? One of the most interesting settings put to music is the setting of Ave Maria. And I wanted to talk about the history of this song. And then I want to play a whole bunch of selections of songs of Ave Maria that go along with that. Now, we have a lot of exciting things coming up that we're going to be talking about in June. I'm going to be talking about three distinct subjects of music on Mondays. One of them is going to be the famous pop singer Frank Sinatra, which I haven't taught about him in a number of years. So we're going to be looking at Frank Sinatra's life in June.
In
June.
Jersey. In New Jersey.
Yes, in New Jersey. So we're going to be looking at him. We're also going to be looking at music of the Baroque period, which is music from 1600 to 1750. So we're going to be looking particularly at music of the Baroque and start looking at that. And I think that's good because I think talking about a category of music is good. So one will be Baroque, one will be classical, one will be impressionistic music, maybe one will be 12-tone music, but it'll all be different categories of music. So I decided to do Baroque music because it's very interesting. That's where George Frederick Handel and Johann Sebastian Bach and Vivaldi and all these composers. And then we're also going to be looking at summer music as well, music about the summer as well. So we've got some interesting topics of music that we're going to be discussing. But today is Ave Maria. And I'm going to be talking about the history of Ave Maria, and then the genesis of it, where it came about, and then we're going to be playing a whole bunch of variety of Ave Maria settings. In past years, I would talk a lot more about two particular Ave Maria settings, and I will talk about them, but I don't want to talk about them this early. I'd rather talk about the two settings that are the most important settings. One of the settings is the Charles Gounod J.S. Bach setting of Ave Maria, which is the J.S. Bach from the Well-Tempered Clavier, C major, with the melodic tune by Charles Gounod of the French composer. Yeah, it's okay. I got you.
I'm sorry.
Don't open it yet.
I was going to do it, but I can't remember if I have to do anything.
Yes. So the J.S. Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, which is that accompaniment with Charles Gounod adding the melody. So we'll talk about that one. And then the other one, probably the most famous, is the Franz Schubert Ave Maria. Ave Maria. That one. Yes. So we'll listen to those settings, but do you know that there's hundreds and hundreds of other settings of Ave Maria? Well, that's what we're going to be mostly listening to. And I want to get your idea of the music. And we're going to talk about the music in depth. We're going to talk about the variety. We'll start with earlier periods, and then we'll get into some of the weirder ones. Some of the, I shouldn't say weirder, but some of them are weird, but more the modern versions of them from different countries and stuff like that. And we'll get into that one. Some you'll probably like, and some you'll find unusual. And that's the point of this, is to show a variety of Ave Maria settings. It's not meant to have you love it, every single one, although I love every single one, but I'm unusual. But the point is to show a variety of different countries all over the world and different time periods use Ave Maria. So Ave Maria is one of the most recognized songs in the world. It's a beautiful text and tune that makes your heart swell with feeling, and each rendition has a unique way of paying tribute to Mary and this classic. There's something about these soothing notes and melodies that make you feel closer to God, because it's a prayer. That's what it is. And hearing the stories behind the famous tune made it that much more powerful. Now, Ave Maria is a wonderful setting that comes from a variety of settings, okay? And we're going to first actually talk about some of the earlier tunes of Ave Maria, and we're just going to give you a second here. Oh, you guys are coming. Oh, okay, good. Go ahead. Come on down. Okay. So, over here, right over here. Thank you. So, where did Ave Maria start? Well, Ave Maria started, was a Catholic tune set to words by a Catholic priest. Okay? And that Catholic priest, we do not know. We do not know who set the Ave Maria text at all. Okay? And it was really started in the early church. Okay? Now, this version, the very first Ave Maria setting, is we use the early musical notation called mensual notation, which is notation of music based in the medieval and early church ages, the early Catholic Church. And it is not modern notation. And in those days, we don't know who wrote the Ave Maria. And it is monophonic. Do you know, it's a very famous Catholic tradition. Do you know what it's called? What's the musical technique of this Ave Maria? Do you know? Anybody?
We don't know exactly.
Starts with a G. Wayne should know. What is this setting? It's monophonic music. Means it has one melodic line. You want to share?
Oh, okay, fine.
What is it called? We talked about it a couple weeks ago, so people got to be listening. Because I talked about it, and it's actually not that difficult to decipher it. Anybody?
Exactly.
Gregorian chant. So what is Gregorian chant? What is chant?
Saying something over and over again.
Not necessarily. Let's see if we come up with a better term than that.
Church music.
It is church. It's a form of church music, but what does it symbolize? What is chant?
Meditation.
Okay, better. Meditation.
Repetition.
It does repeat, but not always. Gregorian chant is a monophonic chant. So if I sing this, Ave Maria, gratia plena, and it is always simple chant, because music of the early church didn't have as much complicated musical forms of music. They didn't have homophony or polyphony of music. That came much later. And they used musical modes based on the ancient Greek Empire. So this is very early music, because we don't know who wrote this. And this was written at least over 1,000 years ago. Wow, music. You're going to hear probably, it's actually a female voice, but actually in those days, it was not proper, sorry ladies, it was not proper for the ladies to sing in a Catholic Mass, because they were boys or adults, because they didn't think women were that important in the early church days. So it probably would have been originally a boy soprano or a cantor. It could have been a guy who sang it, like a cantor, or a priest, someone of the Catholic Church over 1,000 years ago. So this is the original Ave Maria setting. And again, we don't know who wrote it. Okay? So let's listen to it and tell me your thoughts on this Ave Maria. We got a little over 2 hours to go through 1,000 years of music. So here is Ave Maria. So let's listen to it. Tell me your thoughts, what you think of it. Once you have an idea of it. Good. So, what's your thoughts on that?
China is facing it, see it.
All right. Stop. Good. All right. What's your thoughts on that setting?
It was lovely.
What makes it lovely? I'm looking for words beyond lovely and good. More expansive words. We all know it's lovely. But what do you think of it?
Prayerful.
Prayerful is a better word. I don't like words lovely, good, bad, don't like it, do like it, hate it, love it. I'm trying to avoid those words. I'm trying to think of words that go beyond that.
Angelic.
Angelic. Why? What makes it angelic? I have to think about these things. It's my goal in this class is we have a Montessori approach, which means that you should be thinking these things beyond me telling you all the answers. So what are you thinking?
Prayers to God.
Prayers to God.
Yes.
It's actually prayer to Mary. Okay. And I was just looking online. It is a traditional Christian prayer based on the biblical greetings from the Gospel of Luke. So, in this Gregorian chant form, it was served as a central monophonic literature based on Western Christianity for over the millennium. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of the womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. So its prayer is developed through several centuries, moving from purely scriptural citations to a formalized liturgical prayer. So it was formed from the early church. The first Mass is the direct combination of Luke chapter 1, verses 28, Gabriel's greeting, and in Luke chapter 1, verses 42, Elizabeth's greeting. The expansion, which is the part we don't know who wrote it, in the early medieval church, the prayer consisted of only these biblical greetings. And in the Penitentiary edition, second half, Hail Mary, Mother of God, began as an informal oral petition, served as late as the 13th century. And it was officially codified in the Roman breviary of Pope Pius as well. So, like I said, there's a chant to this form. It's prayerful. It's angelic. I would argue it's glorious. Okay? Now, it is also very much a chant. There's the original Ave Maria setting, but then there is another setting which is more of a dance-like form, much later in the medieval period, and we don't know who wrote this piece. Cuntisimus cancerentes Ave Maria. It's a very famous medieval. Ave Maria, Ave Maria. So it's a medieval dance, and we're going to listen to this. And let me look this one up, see if I know a little bit more about this. I always do this once a year, and I always forget some things. And let's see what it says. Oh, let us all sing together. And it's a 14th century Verlaine form of medieval songs and dance. So this one's a little more joyous Ave Maria than some people find that Gregorian chant a little bit sorrowful. This one has a nice setting of Ave Maria that's a little more upbeat. Okay? So here it is. Let's listen to this one. There we go. So we're going a little more, a couple hundred years later, to the medieval period. Let us all sing together Ave Maria, Hail Mary. This will have drums in it and more of a whole body of people singing. There's a lute in there. Embellishments. And this is from Libre Vermel de Montserrat, a manuscript compiled in 1399 by Benedict Monastery and Catalonia, Spain. So this is based in Spain in the 14th century. And it is an Ave Maria setting. Little more modern than the chant, and more uplifting, I would say, dance. Antiphon, call and response. Cantor, Ave Maria. Let us all sing together, Hail Mary, full of grace. Elongated notes, pedal tone, choir holds the same notes, cantor embellishes, then there's an antiphon again, once choirs are singing. The cantor would always sing more text than what the choir would sing. And we'll stop it there. We'll stop it there. Good. It goes on. It's pretty much the same melody and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on the medieval Ave Maria setting?
I liked it.
You know, why? Can you tell me why you like it? What makes it different? I think you know what I'm thinking, but I just want to see if you can explain it.
Well, it was very active and
Yes.
cheerful and
Yeah, what makes it specific? Let's get, that's good, and that's good. What specifically makes it joyful? There's multiple answers. What specifically makes it joyful? Okay.
the rhythm.
I had it shut because there's people. Who's coming?
Did she come?
Oh, yeah, oh, yes.
She just got back.
Sure. I'm trying.
I couldn't hold it.
What specifically makes it joyful and jubilant? Yes.
I think the rhythm.
Yes. But what particularly is playing?
Drums.
Drums, and the other one.
Lute.
Lute.
Yep. Lute. Yes, which is the early. It's like a guitar, but it's string instruments. Can you put it on that side? Yeah, great. Yeah. What else? How many singers are singing? A number of them. Now there's a cantor. There's someone that's singing. Okay. And everybody else sings Ave Maria. Ave Maria. Let's come together and let's sing to Mary. It's much different. I like this one because number one, it's very unusual for medieval music to have instruments in the service. And this one does. Because Spain was one of the few exceptions that allowed some more, I mean, we don't know fully for sure because no one's been alive back then, but we know that it was sung in Spanish monasteries in Spain. And I like it. It's very uplifting. The criticism for medieval music, and I'm one of those critics maybe, for something, is it pretty much, medieval music pretty much all sounds the same. You know, they all kind of sound, for the most part, they all kind of sound the same. They're very bright, and it's very dull music. But like, and usually it's based on fourths or third, like fifths, not fourths, yeah, but like fifths. So you do. Didn't have a third in there, so it's kind of early. I mean, it's all they had. They used one melodic line, and they used open fifth chord, and everything was very bright. Song, and then you have like a cantor that sort of did embellishments. Which uses more Eastern culture traditions. Something from the Middle East. So you have the choir that maybe has like a G open, fifth chord. Or something like that, etc. Right? And so that person was kind of like the cantor or someone, or perhaps a priest. And it was sung by multiple people. But yes, medieval music can be quite dense, a lot of it. Quite beautiful too. Not this one. Nothing dense about this piece of music. And that's why I chose it. Because it's very uplifting for something of the 14th century. 700 years ago, this was written. So the music, yes, there is some really beautiful music in that period. There's another setting. We're going to go to the Renaissance period of music. And the Renaissance was roughly about 200 years of music. And it was from 1400 to 1600 AD. What does Renaissance mean? Yeah, you're close. What does it mean? It's a new art form, new let's see. I think I'm right on this.
Rebirth.
Yeah, it's rebirth. Let's find out. Yes, rebirth. Rebirth. You're right. So, when we get to the Renaissance period of music, we look at particularly a couple of things. Classical wisdom. There was a massive surge in interest in art and philosophy and the literature of ancient Greece and Rome. Much more than the medieval period. And very much into a term that we'll talk about. And we'll talk about Renaissance music a period sometime in the future and really dive into like early music. And we might have to do a couple classes on it. But humanism is a big term in the Renaissance, meaning that instead of focusing solely on the divine and afterlife, like the Middle Ages, the medieval period, scholars and artists began to celebrate human potential, reason, and beauty of the natural world. So the music starts to become more beautiful. Because they kind of like studied music a little bit better, and they added more like thirds and fourths into the music. So instead of it sounding dense like this, we started having, instead of adding thirds and fourths, so the music actually naturally becomes more beautiful. And then there's another term that I find is called a very, very common setting, and it makes the music nicer to listen to, and it makes the music elongated. Instead of it becoming monophony or homophony, which basically the music sounds the same, we start getting into this term called polyphony, and particularly in the term of point of imitation, meaning that you have one statement by one voice part that sings a certain part of Ave Maria, and then that's repeated by a different voice part. And one of the most famous early Renaissance composers is the Franco-Flemish composer Josquin de Prez, who I studied a little bit about him in graduate school, because I conducted a couple of his pieces and sang a number of his works. And I actually conducted this piece. It's one of the most famous Ave Maria settings of the Renaissance. And it was of the high Renaissance. You good?
No, my finger's hurting. Okay, get it in right.
There you go.
Thank you.
Sure. So this was of the high Renaissance, and he was so revered by Martin Luther's famously saying he is the master of notes. They must do as he will. So he was very much into imitative polyphony, imitating one line and another line repeats that same line in a different measure. It doesn't all line up. So this Ave Maria, we're going to go 100 years later into the 16th century. This piece was written in the year 1502. And this was the gold standard of the Renaissance. You will hear a difference in the sound quality of the Renaissance. The texture, the imitative counterpoint, all these variety of things are so important. One of the most famous settings. You're going to actually see in the YouTube video a setting of the Ave Maria. Okay, here it is. Josquin de Prez, the Franco-Flemish composer of the High Renaissance, Ave Maria's motet. Much more beautiful, in my opinion, than the medieval. Sounds more like music we're used to hearing, right? It's one of the most famous Renaissance settings of all time is this piece. Hear that imitativeness? Each two measures. I think it's each measure there's a different Ave Maria setting. Justin de Pré. Justin de Pré. Yes, that's okay. That's the composer. 500 years ago.
What's his name?
Justin. Then you had these duets, sopranos and altos, tenor and bass duets, very common. So multiple layers and then duets imitating each other, and then coming together. So those are duets. And that's together. They sing it in maybe a little bit slightly different. Counterbeat on the offbeat, viola, a little bit. And we'll stop it there. What do you think of that music?
It's very pretty.
Isn't it? Renaissance was particularly about rebirth. There was a lot of rebirths that happened in the Renaissance period, right? Music sounded like music should sound, right? It's music while it's not music that is in our generation, but it's music that you can appreciate much more, I think, right? Does it sound prayerful?
Yes.
Yeah. Does it sound hopeful?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, you think about Mary, who was called by Gabriel to bear the Son of God, the one that would save the people from their sins. It has to be uplifting. It has to be hopeful. You know, music has to go along with the text. And I was telling someone this, that oftentimes the king of instruments is the organ. We hear that term a lot. But really the king of instruments is really the voice, because it's the only instrument that God made. Think about that. A trumpet is man-made, a violin's man-made, a piano is man-made. Not a human voice. You cannot make a human voice. Only God can. And we can use so much of the text. You can't express text on a banjo, on a guitar, on a violin. But you can express text the way you sing it, the best of your abilities, right? So when you do it, it means a lot more if it's done effectively well, right? And that's what this piece is. You kind of got the understanding of the meaning of it, even though probably most of you don't know what the Latin meaning is. Some of you do, right? We're going to listen to another another Renaissance setting. And we're going to go to the country of Spain. Tomás Luis de Victoria was the most prominent composer of the Spanish Renaissance. His work is categorized by mystical intensity and focused exclusively on sacred music, making him a central figure in the Catholic Counter-Reformation. The Catholic Counter-Reformation, I wrote on the Reformation of Martin Luther, which rebelled against the Catholic Church, and that's why you get the Lutheran Church and the Protestant Church, so to say. But the Counter-Reformation was a period that responded to the problems of the Catholic Church before, for the last couple hundred years. And the music was kind of like dead in a way. People were kind of bored. And so people went away from the Catholic Church because it was kind of dense in those days. So they had a Counter-Reformation that made the music much more beautiful to listen to. So we just listened to Josquin. We're going to now listen to Tomás Luis de Victoria in Spain. And this Ave Maria is for a double choir. And it's 1572, so we're going to go 70 years later, okay, into the book of motets. So a motet is a sacred piece of music that is a non-mass setting. When we listen to a mass setting, it's Kyrie, Gloria, Credo, Benedictus, Sanctus, Agnus Dei. And if it's a Requiem Mass, it would be, different settings there. But a motet is a sacred setting that is not in the Mass Ordinary or the non-ordinary Mass. Anything. So an Ave Maria would be a motet. So we're gonna go at Josquin, Josquin, Josquin. The Q is pronounced as Josquin, Franco-Flemish. Now we're gonna go Tomás Luis de Victoria. Then we're gonna listen to his Ave Maria and take a listen to this one and let me know your thoughts. And once we get done the commercial, we'll be ready to go. There we go. Come on, get out of that. Really nice music, don't you think?
Yes.
Very worshipful, I would say. I actually sing this, I just realized, this arrangement, it's not the double choir one, because there's another one that's a double choir, whatever. But this one is a single choir, but I sing with Vox Amadeus and the ensemble in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you don't mind. Thank you. I sing with Vox Amadeus in Philadelphia. And that is the ensemble, professional ensemble that does early music. And we do a Renaissance consort. And that's one of the settings we sing. We put on Renaissance costumes, and that's one of the settings we sing. So it's a really, really beautiful, beautiful setting of the Ave Maria. We're going to go to a Baroque setting of Ave Maria. And there's an interesting setting by by really, let's get to another one. I want to get to an Ave Maria setting that is Baroque, actually. And let me find something before I get to the Bach-Gounod piece. Every one of them picks different ones. What about Vivaldi? Does he have one? No, there's something, but well, let's listen to because we got a lot of more modern composers. But there's one that's like a Baroque setting, and it's probably the second most famous Ave Maria setting, and that's the Bach-Gounod. Now, this setting is a unique collaboration around 137 years, combining the precision of the Baroque period with the emotion of the Romantic era. Johann Sebastian Bach, the German master of the Baroque, he provided the foundation. Charles Gounod, a French Romantic composer, famous for his operas like Faust, provided the melody. So, the Bach-Gounod Ave Maria wasn't originally written as a prayer. It was created in two distinctive layers by two composers from different eras of music. The foundation. Bach wrote the keyboard exercise called the Prelude No. 1 in C major for his collection Well-Tempered Clavier. It consists entirely of broken chords, arpeggios, with no distinct melody. Do you mind if I play the Well-Tempered Clavier by Bach, if you don't mind? I'll play it for you all. It's like a couple minutes. It's not really that long. And let me get it for you. Here it is. I'll just move this here and take a listen to it. And this is the original tune. And this is where you have the accompaniment Gounod from this. And that was the original tune of the Ave Maria. And that is from the J.S. Bach Well-Tempered Clavier, one of the most famous late Baroque composers. Wrote that Well-Tempered Clavier. And there's many different works of J.S. Bach. Now, what happened? Well, Charles Gounod, over a century later, after hearing that foundation, that foundation of this chords, these arpeggiated broken chords, and Charles Gounod loved that early music. listened to it and pondered it, right? And what he does, over 100 years later, was improvising over Bach's prelude. So he heard the prelude and he improvised over top what that arpeggiated chords would be. And thus, we have the Ave Maria setting. Now, he originally published it as an instrumental piece for violin or cello and piano titled Méditation sur les premières prières du piano des Bach. Right? So it was a meditation of a premiere of the piano of J.S. Bach. And then eventually, in 1859, in 1852, it became a violin improvising over top of Bach's prelude, and then eventually the Ave Maria song and the words became prevalent in this piece. So it's 100% Bach, but Charles Gounod, who's a French Romantic composer who loved the early music, adds his melody on top of that. And we're going to hear a beautiful arrangement of this Ave Maria setting, the Bach-Gounod arrangement. Let's take a listen to it. The accompaniment is Bach. The melody from the singer is Charles Gounod. So you hear that Bach accompaniment? And that's actually played by a harp. It could be played by anybody, but... There we go. Good. So, what's your thoughts on that music?
Love them.
Let's think bigger words.
Bigger words.
I agree. I want better words. And you can add anything.
Magnificent.
Right, okay. So what makes it magnificent is what I'm going for. Oh, what's soft?
The vocal.
not soft through all of it,
No.
but it's not loud either. I don't consider that
It's a
soft.
low melody,
It's a, well, it's, what do you think of the melody?
like soft, like, you know,
Like Marie, is it a singable melody?
what's it called, like Aliago? Andantino, like, you know.
Okay, could be an andantino, that's tempo marking. The andantino is like a walking speed, pretty much, yes. I would agree with that. What else?
Crescendos.
Crescendo decrescendo, so it's very much like the romantic composers of the 19th, which very much crescendos into etc. Right? Yes, go, Wayne.
The intervals are leaping. They're not.
Leaps. I think that's what you were going for, anyway.
Yeah.
And it leaps. Maria. Why do you think he wrote it that way? Maria. What's the accompaniment doing? It's broken chords, arpeggios. So therefore, to have leaps on top of the box accompaniment arpeggios makes a difference. Certainly does. Right? So those things you gotta think about. Do you think it's a good setting of Ave Maria? Have you heard of the setting before? Church, yeah, well it's made mostly for churches and stuff. We're going to end with the Schubert one, because that's the most famous one. Good. Alright, so next setting. We're going to go to the classical period, the Enlightenment period, and that is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Now we all know Mozart. He was one of the greatest composers in history, but his relationship to sacred music was quite complicated. A couple of reasons why. Number one, the Archbishop conflict. Much of his earlier sacred music was written for the Archbishop of Salzburg, when he famously disliked and eventually broke away from 1781 to become a freelance artist in Vienna. While this Ave Maria is a small-scale canon, it reflects the same mastery of vocal texture found in his larger works like the Great Mass in C. So, Ave Maria canon was written just 3 years before his death, roughly around the same time. Now, it's very similar to his most famous one, Ave Verum Corpus, which we won't look at today. But this is one of the most significant settings of Ave Maria. In 1788, while he was living in Vienna. Unlike the famous melodic arias of Schubert and Gounod, Mozart's version is a 4-voice canon. So he goes back to the Baroque way of writing, which is a technical exercise in counterpoint music. So he composed this canon in F for 4 equal voices. Now, canons were often used by Mozart to display his mastery of complex musical puzzles where each voice enters at a different time with the exact same melody. It's a really gorgeous piece of music, and it uses kind of more Baroque kind of terms of the Ave Maria. So we're going to listen to it. And it's a little more modern than the previous one. And let's take a listen to it. Other than Gounod, but it doesn't sound as Baroque-ish. It sounds more late Baroque, I would say. Let's take a listen to it. Because of the imitative counterpoint. So once we get done the commercial, we're going to listen to Mozart's Ave Maria. And just tell me your thoughts on it. Here we go. This is 3 right now. What do you think of that setting? What makes it different than the other?
All the harmonies in there.
Yes, so talk about the harmonies.
Hmm?
Talk about the harmony.
Well, each time his melodic comes together with some of the notes, they create a harmony vertically and also this way. And they hold notes, like for instance, that first measure there was got the G and the, or the A and the G, and you got the one holding note there. It's actually, there's the chords are there. You hear chords like.
Right, but the melody is written the same, so it's counterpoint. So it uses one melody, and it kind of goes the same melody. You have a theme, and then that theme variates to a different theme on that same melody, and the same melody is taken to a different voice part.
Note against note? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about like themes.
Themes, okay.
Da 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 da. So he adds notes, but the theme, the main theme idea becomes more prevalent. What do you think, Mr. Klaus? You got something. I can see it in your face. What do you think?
Amazing.
What's your thoughts?
How did they figure this out? How did the musicians get it to that point? And I've always,
Just to my eyes.
it's a remarkable kind of a thing. And I think it's the best form of modern music that we can have.
It's very much, it's contrapuntal, but it's not as complicated as Bach and Handel and Vivaldi, right? It's much more, and Sonderfunk, right? And Sonderfunk, right? Meaning in sentimental music. Music became more simple, right? We're going to go to another setting, and this is very much follows the classical traditions, but a romantic composer clearly, and that is Giuseppe Verdi. Now, Giuseppe Verdi, born in 1813, died in 1901, was primarily an opera composer, right? We know him Rigoletto, like Questo Quella, etc., right? And some other operas, right? Now, he was self-described agnostic, meaning that he didn't believe in a particular god, yet he produced one of the most hauntingly unique settings of Ave Maria later in his life in 1889. This piece was born out of a musical challenge. In 1888, a music journal published an enigmatic scale, a strange, dissonant series of notes that didn't fit the standard major or minor key. Verdi intrigued by the puzzle used this scale as a cantus firmus. Cantus firmus is a fixed melody. In his Ave Maria, one voice sings this weird scale in long, slow notes, while the other three voices weave traditional lush harmonies around it. Now, he was a national hero in Italy, known for his grand operas. Though he rarely attended church and was skeptical of the organized religion, he turned towards sacred texts in the 80s, the 1880s. The Ave Maria became his first movement of his final major work, called the Quattro Pezzi Sacri, the four sacred pieces. And this one is not the thunderous requiem. You know, this one's not it's not loud. Rather, we tend to think of Verdi's music as loud. But this piece is imitative, quiet, and written for an unaccompanied four-part chorale, a cappella. So let's take a listen to it. This is gorgeous. Once we get done the commercial. Verdi's a very fascinating composer. And this is a very fascinating piece. I've chosen unique composers we know very well, in a certain branch of style, but composers that can write, just because they write always loud doesn't mean they're always loud. They can write softer music to draw us in. We're going to take a listen to it. More hauntingly beautiful, I would say this one. unusual deceptive cadences, changing of keys.
He ends in the original key, doesn't he?
Yes. He starts and ends
Let's see.
in.
See.
Yes. Oops, sorry. There we go. What do you think of that music?
I think it's beautiful.
I think
Okay.
it's really nicely well balanced as it moves from key to key.
Kind of goes the Mozart route, but it definitely changing keys much more. Da, 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 da. So it changes keys like the late Romantic composers would, but it keeps the piece kind of interesting. And Wayne's exactly right. It starts and ends in the key of C major, which is quite fascinating. Now, we're going to go a little bit earlier. We're going to go to a German composer by the name of Felix Mendelssohn. And we're going to listen to his Ave Maria setting.
You know what came to mind when I was listening to that?
Verdi's? Yeah, what?
It's like a little musical tour,
Yes.
and then he brings it back
Right.
home.
I think I have. Hold
Really
on.
cool.
Before we get.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. Do I have this one? I thought I had something there. It is. Let me see. Do I have this one?
Looks good.
I might not have the score with me. I thought I did. It's. Oh wait, maybe I do. Da, 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 da. Give me a second. Look how many key changes. Here it is. Give me a second. I'll play all the different key changes in just a second here. There's a lot of key changes in the Ave Maria set. I'm going to pull the score up here. Terrible. All right, here we go. Let me play it for you all. I'll just play the accompaniment here and listen to all the key changes here. Alright. Oh, that is not the Ave Maria I was expecting. Hold on. Give me a second. Here it is. Here it is. This one's it. Key change. Key change. Key change. 6 different key changes just by using the linear scale. So it's all these deceptive cadences where it leads the listener to not where it expects it to go.
I like that.
And you like that. So it's gorgeous. I could give you the sheet music for it. It's really nice. It's really nice. So we'll start getting into those ideas of those composers that they're leading the listener not into the expected keys. And in fact, we've got some pretty modern composers coming up that are really unexpected keys that are coming up. One of them is a Japanese setting, which I hope you all listen to. But we're going to listen to Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn's Ave Maria was composed in 1830 and was a brilliant bridge between the strict polyphony of the Renaissance and the emotional warmth of the Romantic era. Mendelssohn loved the early music, the polyphony of the Renaissance and the Baroque composers. So let's listen to Mendelssohn's Ave Maria. Take a listen to this one. Once the commercial is done. Felix Mendelssohn, well-known composer, died in his mid-30s, most famous for his Mendelssohn's Elijah and his German Psalms, of course. So here is Mendelssohn for you. 1830 was written. And this is a double choir. But an 8-part choir. We'll stop it there. But that's pretty much the setting. Goes on and on. What's your thoughts on that setting? Karen, you haven't spoken in a while. Karen, what did you think?
I like that very much.
Yeah. It's very much the keys that we expect and uses messa voce, crescendo, when it gets that forte piano a little bit. Piano is actually piano and forte piano. So it uses kind of that polyphony of the Renaissance Baroque but does it in a more romantic feel, a 19th century feel. It's gorgeous music. Mendelssohn, I love Mendelssohn's music. His music's just really gorgeous. Reminds me a lot of Handel's music, George Frederick Handel. Just melodic, but a modern version of Handel, right? Next composer, Gabriel Fauré, a French composer. Now, Fauré spent his entire professional life working in churches, yet he was famously private about his faith. He saw religious music not as a place of fire and brimstone, but as a source of peace and constellation. That was what he was known for. And his most famous setting, the Opus 67 Ave Maria, features two female chorus, or a children's choir. It is categorized by gentle swaying accompaniment and a melody that feels like a peaceful lullaby. We're going to listen to the Fauré Ave Maria, Opus 67.
Yeah.
So let's take it. There's Fauré, his famous mustache, of course.
Question.
Yeah.
Didn't he write a lot for cello?
Yeah, he wrote a decent amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote for cello. He wrote for a bunch of instruments.
That's
Mostly he wrote for organ and vocal lines. His famous piece, I think, is the Fauré Requiem. There's a piece I conducted, Cantique des Jean Racine. Did in grad school. Very romantic in its style, but again, a composer that liked early music. Pavane is a very famous cello piece of music as well.
This famous guy, I can't remember his name, but I heard him in person in the Met. He was really some famous cellist. I can't remember his name. He was.
Yo-Yo Ma?
Yeah, I saw that. This
Oh,
close.
Yo-Yo Ma, yeah.
He was like, oh, it was what?
Yeah,
the
he's a
front
very
row.
good
The
cellist.
front row of watching the guy do this is like, this is too cool. That didn't take my eyes
He's great.
off him.
He was great. He's great. All right. We're going to go to the 20th century of music. And to be simplistic but gorgeous. Not as complicated as Mendelssohn and Verdi's version, but just uses children's voices, really. And very homophonic, very simple texture, but it fits, it goes. It really is prayerful. So we're going to listen to a bunch of 20th and 21st century composers. And we get to a lot of variety of settings. Some you're going to like it, some you're not going to like. But that's okay. We're going to listen to one that's a little bit different because this was the first one where there's an Ave Maria setting that is not in Latin. It is in Russian. Bogodotsye Dievo, which is Russian for Ave Maria by Sergei Rachmaninoff. And this is written in the rest of the all-night visual in less than 2 weeks in January, February of 1915. This piece was written during World War I and premiered in Moscow on March 10, 1915. As a benefit for the war relief, it was an immediate success, performed 5 more times in the first month. Although Rachmaninoff was not deeply religious in his adult life, he was profoundly moved by the ancient Orthodox chants he heard in his youth. For this work, he used a technique called conscious counterfeits, creating new melodies that sound indistinguishable from century-old traditional chants. His work is considered a pinnacle of Russian sacred music. However, following the Russian Revolution of 1917, religious music was officially condemned by the Soviet government, and the piece was suppressed in Russia for decades. But it's not suppressed now, and it's a gorgeous piece, and I've sung it a couple of times, a gorgeous piece. And it's that Ave Maria setting not in Latin, but in Russian. So, Bogdanovtsie Dievo by Sergei Rachmaninoff from the all-night visual. All right, stupid piece.
Welcome.
Sorry for that.
Amazing.
Once we get done this commercial, take a listen to this one. There's a gorgeous setting. I really like this piece. This is Voces Ace, the famous ensemble Bogdanovtsie Dievo. Sergei Rachmaninoff. And they're singing in they're singing in Russian, not Latin. Much a Greek Russian Orthodox sound in this style. Oh, that picture?
Yeah, hold it. Look at the tall guy and the blue with the glasses. He has the same shoes that you have on.
No.
Oh, he does?
Yes, he does.
What did he say?
He must have, I got him at Walmart, so you guess he went to Walmart. That's cool. He says that we have the same shoes.
The same shoes.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Gorgeous setting. Da, 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 da. So it's an F major, but uses more, that more chant like the Russian Orthodox music. Next setting is Igor Stravinsky's Ave Maria. This is 20 years later, in 1934, a short choral piece that reflects on the composer's return to the Russian Orthodox roots as well. Written in Paris using the Church Slavic text, it was one of the last 3 short sacred courses he wrote after rejoining the Orthodox Church in 1926. So Igor Stravinsky. Let's take a listen to his music. Sorry. You never know with these pieces. Some are quieter and louder than others, so I got it in time. So here we go. Stravinsky's Ave Maria. That's the 7th case. And the 20th century reintroduces the modes back again into music. Kind of an interesting setting. We do one setting that's, well, first of all, what do you think of this setting? There's a couple more I wanted to play. Really gorgeous. It's definitely more homophonic music. It's more like a hymn. They basically sing the same text. Do you know the composer Juhani Rautavaara? He is a Finnish composer, landmark Finnish composer of choral music, and a rare example of traditional prayer using 12-tone system. So 12-tone music is music it's basically a tonal music, which basically this was tonal, basically you can find a key. 12-tone system uses the 12 semi-steps of the piano, and it's not tonal. Etc. But it's an Ave Maria setting of a 12-tone system, written in 1957, based sort of Arnold Schoenberg's 12-tone system, based in the Second Viennese School, and a landmark Finnish composer from Finland. Now, originally this titled Ave Maria, this work was written for a male choir during Rautavaara's modernist period, when he was heavily experimenting serialism, music that goes beyond the realms of tonality. So you can hear this is completely different from the other styles because it uses denocophonic technique, the 12-tone system of Ave Maria. So we're going to listen to this. It's only 3 minutes. And tell me your thoughts on this piece of music, which is different than probably what you're used to hearing in music. And this is music from the modernist 12-tone experimental music of the mid-20th century. And this is his Ave Maria setting. Some of them you're not going to like, and that's okay, but it is an Ave Maria setting. You might like it. Who knows? Here we go. I think it's quite tonal. It is 12 tone, but it is quite tonal in its form. But it goes back to mysterious. It's very mysterious, but it is 12 tone. But it is tonal. But the rule for 12 tone is that all 12 semitones have to be sung before reintroduced into the next texture. So the 12 tone, all the 12 semitones have to be sung before it be reintroduced again. It's called 12 tone row music. It's not tonal music, it's 12 tone. What you think of it though? I think it's quite gorgeous music though. Yeah, some people didn't like it. That's okay, the guy's dead, so you're not going to offend him. Good, what do you think, Klaus? What did you think of the music?
There are, in our days, efforts to enliven the enliven music. It's an enormous number of composers who are working on reaching us. Anyways.
Okay, we're going to move on because a couple of things, and there's even more interesting. I'm going to do a setting that I did. So in 2020, 2021, we had COVID and all the choirs. As you know, I'm a professional singer. I sing in a whole bunch of choirs all over the East Coast of the United States. But during 2020, I couldn't do any singing in person, except much later. But I was able to do virtual choirs. So I was asked to sing the tenor solo for this international voice choir, and you're going to see me from 5 years ago on YouTube. And it's an Ave Maria setting by Franz Biebel, who's one of the most famous 20th century choral works is Ave Maria. It's celebrated for its lush, sonorous harmonies, unique structure. And Franz Biebel was a German organist and choral director who survived being a prisoner of war in Michigan during World War II. And this is really a gorgeous Ave Maria setting. You're going to recognize me on there, singing with a whole bunch of friends all over the world, singing choral music. So us choral enthusiasts kept singing even though COVID tried to stop us. And so you'll recognize me on there, and then we'll listen to some other settings here.
You're eating food.
Yeah.
So they are chicken.
I'm going to get to, hold on.
Fried chicken.
Hold on a second. I'm going to get to,
Good chicken.
let's get to this setting. This one's much louder than I thought it was going to be. Sorry. Recognize me? And he uses much more, Biebel uses much more the chants from the early, or uses more modern harmonies, let's say. basically the idea, the Ave Maria setting. This one's more lush and melodic. Do you like it? It's really nice. Do you know this piece?
Yes.
It's a very famous piece of music. Good. Now I'm going to go to something much different. Toshio Hashikawa, a famous contemporary Japanese composer of the Asian world. And he's a leading contemporary Japanese composer who wrote the Ave Maria in 1991. Represents a unique synthesis of Western avant-garde technique and Eastern philosophy concepts. Unlike the traditional melodic setting of the past, Hashikawa's version is ethereal, 16-voice a cappella work that explores inner movements of sound rather than just prayer. Born in Hiroshima, Hashikawa studied in Germany under masters like Insian Yang, Klaus Huber, before returning to Japan to discover his own cultural roots from his German training. His music is deeply influenced by Zen Buddhism and the symbolic interpretation of nature. His views on compositional processes of form. I hate these stupid, sorry, walkie-talkies. Let's mute him. Sorry. He was born influenced by Zen Buddhism and the symbolic interpretation of nature, and his views on compositional process as a form of sound choreography. He bridges the gap between horizontal time and Western music, Eastern culture and Western training in there. Now, this Ave Maria setting is a 16-voice texture. They use interesting contemporary techniques like breathy utterances. So Hashikawa uses extended vocal techniques, including voiceless whispers, crushed voices, mimic nature sounds, and wind. These effects are designed to shape a collective soundscape rather than a clear melody. It is an atonal piece of music for the most part. Each voice entry is treated as a precise gesture, emerging from and receding into sonnets much like a single stroke of ink. And this was recorded by the Volksensemble in Germany. And this is an unusual piece of Ave Maria setting, but it is an Ave Maria setting from the Asian world of Japan. I've used this one for 6 years, and it's probably one of the more unusual versions of Ave Maria. So we won't listen to the whole piece, but most of it, so you kind of get an idea of what it sounds like. 1991. It's an interesting setting. And it's different than the others, which I like. It's different. So this is contemporary Toshio Hashikawa. Here we go. Representing sounds of nature rather than actual vocal tones. And this technique, you have to be singing complete straight tone, right? Instead of and uses what is called microtonality as well, which is between notes. So microtonality, pitches in between semi-half steps. composer's still alive. He's 70 something now. This one's more haunting, I would say.
Yeah.
You'll hear whispering sounds. And it's all replicating prayers, but using space, out atmosphere, ethereal prayers, rather than earthly prayers, is what he's trying to go for. With still a cantor. I think the cantor's, yeah, that's the cantor line. Hear tone rows in there, which is multiple pitches crunched together by semi-step second minor seconds. Here it is. And it goes on for a while. Not much longer, but that's basically the piece of music. So he uses one pitch, one person has to stay on pitch, and one bass has to sing the same note, stay on the note, and one has to go on. It's kind of interesting. I had the score of it. I studied it in grad school. It's a very interesting piece of music. It's different than all the others. So what's your thoughts on the Ave Maria, this Ave Maria setting, and how it's different from others? Yes, good.
No, I'm not sure.
Not sure?
Yeah.
That's okay. This one's more complicated to teach.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Uses more vocal techniques more than the others. There's another one. We're going to get one more into the 20th century, and this one's another odd one. And then I promise I'll play all the luscious, beautiful 21st century Ave Maria settings. But this one is another Russian composer by the name of Yuri Kasparov. Creates a strikingly modern and award-winning setting of Ave Maria in 1989. This is all experimental Ave Marias. And he graduated as an engineer at the Moscow Power Engineering Institute in Moscow Conservatory. And was mentored under the avant-garde composer Edison Desperov. Now, this Ave Maria is not a standard church hymn arrangement, but a complex contemporary work that won first prize for the International Composers Competition in Italy, the Girdo di Azzo. And particular about this piece is you have 12 solo voices, violin, organ, and vibraphone. And this is an atonal piece of music as well. So let's take a listen to Yuri Kasparov's Ave Maria setting. There it is. This is another odd piece. But it won an award, so it must have been something. 1989. I'm going to skip to the singing a little bit. Basically the idea. Extended techniques, avant-garde techniques, and it actually won an award for the Italian Avant-Garde Festival. And so it is avant-garde, so extreme techniques, soft to extremely loud in the second, all that stuff. So it's avant-garde, but it's an Ave Maria setting. So now I'm going to listen to one 21st century piece of music, and then we're going to listen to the Franz Schubert, and then we'll be done. This one is a wonderful Ave. Well, any thoughts on that one before we get to the 21st century?
Really eerie.
Eerie.
Weird.
Can be.
Weird.
Can be. It's different than the Hoshikawa's arrangement. Much darker, but uses instruments, extended techniques, and stuff like that. I'm fascinated by that music because I've always tried to explore that kind of music because a lot of people don't explore that kind of music. So I've been studying a lot on the techniques of those composers, how they write like that, what's their process behind it. So I do have a background because Westchester I studied a bunch of those names and all these composers were like more of the odd side of writing. I'm going to play a beautiful Ave Maria setting by a wonderful composer from the United States, and it's a 21st century piece written in 2012, and it's Daniel Elder, who's a little bit older than me, 1986. Composed his Ave Maria in 2012. It's a standard contemporary choral literature prized for its warmth and accessibility. Now this setting is deeply atmospheric, evocative. It moves away from the intellectual avant-garde complexities of composers like Hoshikawa and Kasparov, and it returns back to the rich Taterian harmonies, chords built on thirds, and soaring melodic melodies. So it's an 8-part vocally harmonic, rich texture that I think you're going to really love. So let's play it. First, once the commercial's done. Oh, man, you got 18 seconds. Hold on. There we go. So this is 21st century American, more tonal. Very much of a tone cluster harmony using chords that cluster together, much like Morton Lauderson and Eric Whittaker style. You know those composers. melodies of the early music. And not as much avant-garde, not as much experimental, but more tonal harmony. And some would argue it's very much like the Beagle, very homophonic and imitative. With those rich harmonies, all those lines. This one's rich texture, I find. Isn't that gorgeous? That's a great one. Daniel Elder, really good composer, and a composer of today. I mean, these are composers that write classical music today, my generation of music composers. One more. I'm going to play the most famous Ave Maria setting, Franz Schubert. Arguably the most famous version of the world, yet it was not originally written as a prayer. It was composed as a song cycle. It was based on Ellen's third song, Ellen's dritte Gesang, Ellen's third song, based on the poem Sir Walter Scott, The Lady in the Lake. But it became one of the most famous Ave Maria settings ever sung in a church setting. And we're going to listen to Luciano Pavarotti sing it. And the most